My name is Sofía.
And my name is Daniela.
And this is the analysis of our lesson.
The class was composed by 6 students, 3 girls and 3 boys. In general, the students were very engaged in the class activities and were really willing to contribute and participate in our lesson. I would dare to say that this was the perfect class, as the students had the opportunity to personally ask their doubts.
The materials that we used were a video presentation, the whiteboard, and some worksheets of exercise for the students to complete. As a general framework, we used the methodology of CBI, as our purpose was to teach the content related to global warming throughout the creation of a TV show. Larsen, Freeman, and Anderson, in their book Techniques and Principles in Language Teaching, claim that CBI techniques see language as the medium for learning content, and content was seen as a way of learning a language.
In the class, we taught our students vocabulary on global warming, but we also tried to explain them how global warming was produced and the effect it produces on the global population. Therefore, our main focus was not teaching language, such as explaining tenses and grammar, but teaching the content of the unit.
Okay, in the first part of the lesson, we asked students to tell us what they knew about global warming, and I wrote down what the students said. This step of the lesson may refer to the building background component, which is the second one of the SIOP model, which is the one that we used for this lesson planning.
This component refers to the connections that the students make between their previous ideas with the new ones. When doing these connections, the students are able to understand and get familiarized with the new topic.
In relation to our class, the connections or previous conceptions that students had definitely helped in the smooth flow of the class, as the students showed that they were comfortable with the new ideas that we were exposing.
What this is. So we're going to show you a video about global warming in order to answer some of your questions that you may have left. So pay a lot of attention. Please take notes. Yes, because you're going to use this information for another activity. So it would be great if you take notes. Global warming is the
Then we play the video and we ask them to pay attention. And here is where we can make some comments on, as we could have taken more advantage of that material by making questions about the information that appear on it.
Yes, that's right, because maybe we could have given them the instructions in another way, because we didn't ask them to look for specific information that could have been useful for them, as later on they had to do other activities related to the same topic.
That is true. But we were lucky because our students took a lot of notes and had a lot of previous knowledge about global warming, so we can say, after all, it wasn't as detrimental as it could have been.
Okay, now that you saw the video, do you have any questions or doubts? No, it was clear. Do you need to watch it one more time, or it was enough? Yes, it was quite simple, right?
Well, another point to comment on is that after watching the video, I asked students if they understood it. However, I did it by asking just one question, which was, did you understand? And maybe I could have made more specific questions to actually verify if students got the main ideas of the video, or at least the ideas that they were going to use in the following activities.
Now, in the matching activity, students were allowed to work by themselves or with a partner in order to tackle multiple learning styles. An individual learning style refers to the way in which a student absorbs, processes, comprehends, and retains information. For example, when learning how to build a clock, some students understand the process by following verbal instructions, while others have to physically manipulate the clock themselves.
In fact, individual learning styles depend on cognitive, emotional, and environmental factors, as well as one's prior experience. In other words, everyone's different, and it is important for teachers to understand these differences in order to find out the best teaching strategies for their students.
Well, we can say that those students who did not feel confident enough could share their knowledge or doubts about the definitions with a partner, and more advanced learners were able to help their less advanced classmates. So nobody was left behind. The activity addressed the interpersonal intelligence that many students possessed.
Yes, so in that way, if a student needed help to fulfill the task, he or she would be allowed to ask a partner for assistance. In the video, Daniela's voice was almost inaudible, so maybe she could have projected her voice for the purpose of the analysis of this video. However, as there were a few students and it was a small classroom, it wasn't a problem for the students' understanding of instructions.
In this part, I asked one of the students to read the instructions for her classmates. This was a great idea as the student could model the activity showing her classmate how to do it. Nevertheless, we could have improved this by asking another student to rephrase what her classmate had just read in order to check if they understood the instructions.
So, as Daniela said, the format of the program, you have fixed phrases, such as welcome this week on the program. You have to invent a name for the program. So, that's up to you. And it's very important that you highlight the importance of the topic. So, you as presenter have to ask at least two of the questions. No, at least three, I'm sorry. But the two, yes, the two first questions are mandatory. You have to ask them in compulsory. So, do you have any doubts regarding the instructions?
We think that it was a good idea to divide the instructions for the TV show, as the worksheet contained a lot of information. Therefore, when we paused the giving of instructions and asked them if they had understood so far, we make sure that the instructions were clear and understood by students. As Epperson and Roseman, in Strategies for Motivating and Managing the Chilean Classroom, claimed that students' clear reception of the instructions of the class lead to a positive behavior inside the classroom.
Therefore, and following the author's ideas, we try to check the comprehension of the instructions many times in order to make sure that students really understood what they had to do. The role-play activity required students to work on their own for about 10 minutes. After 5 or 7 minutes, we decide to walk around their seats, observing their progress, checking if they need some aid in terms of vocabulary or pronunciation, and scaffolding them in their process of learning.
Monitoring is quite important when it comes to the relationship between the teacher and the student. The teacher must be aware of the multiple differences, such as different levels, intelligences, learning styles, and so on, in order to assess the student's achievements in a more individual way.
It's important to highlight that even when we assist the students, we let them work alone for a long period of time, so they didn't feel under pressure because of our presence.
Another thing that I want to add is our use of the space in the classroom, because in the video it might seem that we were always standing in the same place. Nonetheless, students were sit on a corner of the classroom and they were all together, so there was no need for us to walk around the rest of the classroom.
Okay, you can start.
Welcome to Paprika. Today we're going to talk about an important issue, global warming. Today we have two brilliant experts of University of Oxford. So here we have Carla Celis and Priscilla Rosero. So welcome.
Now, regarding to the development of the role-play activity, we can say that it went extremely well, as the students seemed very interested on what they were about to do, and they were really enthusiastic while performing. Moreover, they were very respectful of their classmates when they were presenting. We used peer assessment rubrics that were very useful, as the students told us that it was an unusual but fun way of evaluation. We introduced this tool as we thought that it would help the students to keep engaged with the activity of the role play, and happily it worked.
Yes, it kept students who were watching the performances busy so they didn't get distracted at any point. The only thing that maybe went wrong is that we could have used those peer evaluations to reflect on them, as they were very useful. Sadly,
we didn't take that reflection into consideration when we planned the lesson, so we didn't have time to expand on their peer assessment.
For the TV show, we had assigned 10 minutes. However, students needed more time to complete the activity, and that was detrimental for the closure of the lesson, as we couldn't give them feedback on their performance as we expected to do.
Giving feedback is highly important as the students need to be aware of their flaws, so in that way they know the mistakes they're making in order to correct them in future activities.
Nevertheless, it is also important to make students be aware of the positive aspects of what they are producing, as it gives them the confidence they need to feel that they are progressing in the learning of a language.
Yes, Priscilla. Could you please quickly read the objectives of this class?
Students will be able to recognize a specific vocabulary of union, name causes and effects of global warming, play a role in a TV show, and practice oral skills.
Okay. Do you think that you achieved these things? Yes. Really? And what was useful for you? What makes you easier to do these things? What activity or reading?
Play a role in a TV show.
The TV show? The definition. Okay.
By the end of the class, we asked the students to read the objectives for the lesson, and we also asked them if they thought that those objectives were accomplished and how they thought they have accomplished those objectives.
Last question. When we asked them which activities or strategies made their learning easier, we used the fourth component of the SIAP model, which is strategies. This component refers to the way in which educators teach their students how to make the best use of their learning strategies.
Furthermore, it also considers teaching metacognitive skills so students can find out what they actually know and how they know it. So we try to ask them how they learn in order for them to consider and evaluate which strategies are more effective for their personal learning process.
To finish, we can say that in general the class went pretty well, as the students showed that they were pretty engaged and motivated with the materials and activities that we gave them, and all the activities were properly accomplished.
Yes, we can say that this first approach helped us, since it allowed us to know what it feels like to be a teacher. So after analyzing the lesson, we have realized that lots of subjects that we have taken so far in our years at the PUCV helped us with the class management, because we had the knowledge required for teaching our students. And moreover, this experience gave us some tools that will definitely help us in our future practicals.
Okay, that's all. Thanks for watching.